What's up guys, my name is Ace, and one thing I've noticed that some people seem to be struggling with in XDefiant is dealing with the Phantom faction, because the passive ability of a Phantom player is they actually get extra health by default at 120, whereas with all of the other factions, they only get 100 health. And what this means is oftentimes it's going to take you 1 or even 2 extra shots to kill with a gun versus a Phantom player, which can absolutely make the difference between winning and losing a gunfight against those players. Now in saying that, there are actually several exceptions here with guns that take the same number of shots to kill, or just guns that perform really well against Phantom players relative to the other guns in the game, and that's what we're going to be covering today. This is something I highly recommend studying a little bit, so then if you end up in one of those matches where you notice most of the enemy team is using the Phantom faction, you can pull out one of these guns and effectively nullify that health advantage that they have. And without further ado, let's dive into some of the base guns that perform really well against Phantom players. In these cases, you don't need to run the Cleaners faction for that extra burn damage or the Heavy Barrel to get extra damage by default on your gun. These are guns that just perform excellent out of the box against a Phantom player. And the first one in the assault rifle category is the M16. And the reason I like the M16 so much against Phantom players is, at least on the maximum damage range, it takes you the exact same number of shots to kill to the body versus a Phantom player compared to any other player out there. It's going to be a 5-shot kill no matter what. And therefore, as long as you're keeping yourself within that maximum damage range, Phantom players will feel just like regular players when shooting them with an M16. And it's actually the exact same story with the TAC-50 sniper rifle right now. You get the exact same one-shot zones as non-Phantom players. It's going to be a one-shot kill to the upper torso versus a non-Phantom player or a Phantom player, and a 2-shot kill anywhere else aside from the head, of course. And that means with a TAC-50 in your hands, it doesn't matter if it's a Phantom player or a regular player, they'll die exactly the same. Next up, sticking to the same topic of guns that kill exactly the same versus Phantom and non-Phantom players, there's actually 3 different pistols in this game that fill that role. These are the 686 Magnum, the M1911, and the D50. For all of these, at least in their first 2 damage ranges, they kill any player in the exact same number of shots. For the 686 Magnum and the D50, this is going to be a 3-shot kill up close. And for the M1911, this is a 4-shot kill up close and a 5-shot kill at mid-range. And it doesn't matter if that enemy is a Phantom or not. As for the next couple guns I want to talk about here, these ones have the potential to kill Phantom players the same as non-Phantom players, but you have to be a bit more precise with your shots, and these are both of the marksman rifles, the SVD and the Mark 20 SSR. With both of these guns, we're capable of getting a 2-shot kill to the body against any player in the game, but with Phantoms, both of those shots have to hit the upper torso if you want to maintain that 2-shot kill. Whereas against non-Phantom users, you could shoot them once in the lower torso, once in the upper torso, and still get a 2-shot kill. So it's less forgiving against Phantoms, but the same potential is there, and with good aim, you can totally nullify that advantage they have. And there we go. That's going to wrap it up for the guns that right out of the box, without any additional modifiers on them, they have the potential to perform just as well against Phantom players as non-Phantom players. However, we also do have modifiers like the Heavy Barrel, for instance, that can increase our damage, or the Cleaners faction that adds a bonus burn damage after the fact. So let's start getting into the details of guns that benefit from those things. Keeping in mind, I have done full breakdowns on both of these, and if I remember, I'll try to leave a link to both of those videos in the description of this video so you can learn a little bit more about those as well. And let's start this off with the Heavy Barrel, and it turns out there are only 8 guns in the game that will receive a notable benefit against Phantom users, at least in their maximum damage range, which is where it really counts, by just using the Heavy Barrel alone. And in the assault rifle category, we have the MDR and the M4A1. With both of these, if you put the Heavy Barrel on, it goes from an 8-shot kill to the body against a Phantom user down to a 7-shot kill. Now, a quick note on these though, even with the Heavy Barrel equipped and even cutting this down to a 7-shot kill instead of 8, both of these are still going to be killing quite slow against a Phantom user, and honestly, you'd still be better off with just a base ACR with no attachments on it. So just because these technically help against a Phantom user, I still wouldn't necessarily recommend them if you're trying to be as effective as possible against a Phantom. On the other hand though, with the SMGs, for both the Vector and the MP7, if you use the Heavy Barrel on these, they now kill in the same number of shots as regular players, which is a 6-shot kill in the maximum damage range, and that's going to be extremely beneficial against Phantom users. In fact, these are a couple of my favorite guns to use if I find myself fighting against a lot of Phantoms. Next up, there's a couple LMGs that benefit really heavily from having the Heavy Barrel on versus Phantom players, and these are both the RPK-74 and the M249. With both of these, as soon as you put that Heavy Barrel on, you maintain a 5-shot kill potential against Phantom players to the body, which is the same number of shots it'll take you to kill a regular player. And a nice additional benefit with these LMGs versus Phantom players is the LMGs are excellent for taking out the shield as well. Whether that's the ultimate bubble shield that surrounds them, or just those regular shield walls that they throw out, LMGs are excellent for taking those out fairly quickly. And then finally, for the guns that benefit the most from heavy barrels against Phantom users, we once again have both of the marksman rifles. And like I said earlier, we can still benefit from both of these without any attachments on them, but it'll take us 2 upper torso shots to kill a Phantom user. Whereas when you put the heavy barrel on, now it's only going to take you 1 shot to the upper torso and 1 shot to the lower torso for a 2-shot kill. And then additionally, this is going to make it more consistent against non-Phantom users as well, so that's an additional bonus here. So while you don't need the heavy barrel on these guns, it's definitely helpful and it'll improve your consistency overall. And that now wraps it up for the section with all of the guns that benefit from heavy barrels versus Phantom users. Now let's talk about the Cleaners faction. And again, I have covered this in much greater detail in the past, but this time we're focusing specifically on Phantom users. And in this case, it is worth noting every gun I just mentioned in the heavy barrel section, it will also benefit from the Cleaners faction if you don't have the heavy barrel unlocked yet. Now, for all of those specific guns, though, if I had to choose between the heavy barrel and the Cleaners faction, I'm always going for the heavy barrel. And the reason behind that is the heavy barrel deals all of its damage the moment the bullet hits, whereas with the Cleaners faction, you have to wait for that burn damage to apply after the fact. And therefore, with the RPK, for instance, you can get a 5-shot kill with the heavy barrel against a Phantom user instantly, or you can still get a 5-shot kill against them, but it's going to take you about 1 second to 1.5 seconds after your 5th shot hits before the Phantom player actually dies. So heavy barrel is always preferable in these cases, unless you don't have it unlocked yet, in which case combine it with Cleaners instead. So those ones are pretty straightforward. However, there is one important one to note here, and this is the M44 sniper rifle. I would highly recommend using with the Cleaners faction if you're playing against some Phantom users. And the reason behind this is the M44 is going to be a 1-shot kill to the upper torso against regular players with or without Cleaners, but it's not going to be a 1-shot kill against Phantom players unless you combine it with Cleaners, in which case you will end up getting that 1-shot kill after some time has passed and the burn damage has applied. Now, if you want to make that even faster, you can combine the heavy barrel with the Cleaners faction on the M44, and this will give you a nearly instant kill against a Phantom user with an upper torso shot. And this effectively makes the M44 just as deadly as the TAC-50. Additionally, there's one other combination I wanted to mention here that's quite effective against Phantom users. For those of you guys that like the AK-47, if you use the heavy barrel and the Cleaners faction against a Phantom user, you'll be able to get a 5-shot kill against them instead of a 6-shot kill fairly quickly. It doesn't take too long for that final burn damage to apply. And with that, that's finally going to wrap it up for all of the guns that perform best against Phantom players in XDefiant. Now I know that's a lot to go through and try to remember off the top of your head, so I do want to make it easy for you guys, although in doing so, this may hurt my viewer retention a little bit and this video in the YouTube algorithm. So all I ask is if you want to take a screenshot of this image, please feel free. But in exchange for that, please just leave me a like on this video. I'd really appreciate that. I did put a lot of time and effort into this, doing all the math, calculating which guns are going to be best. But here it is. Here are all the guns with and without modifiers that are best used against Phantom players. And I'd recommend keeping this handy just in case you run into some really difficult Phantom users that you're struggling to get some kills on. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How do you feel about the fact that Phantom players get extra health by default compared to the other factions? Are you fine with this based on how their abilities are balanced? Or do you think everybody should have this same base health? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.